into this alleyway. I had lost the cops by driving up the wrong way of a one-way. I zip into an alleyway. I'm pulling all the way through the alleyway, and another cop sees me. So I put the car in reverse. I'm going 45 miles an hour in reverse. I hit the telephone pole. I decide I'm not done. I try to drive around the cop car. They think I'm driving towards them. They end up shooting the car 26 times. I ended up getting shot 3 times. I got shot through my left arm, my right shoulder, and my left leg. They smashed out the window. They dragged me out. And as I'm bleeding out in this alleyway, the final thought crosses my mind. Is this it?
Yeah.
Right.
The next 24 hours was just absolute chaos.
Yeah. He's a friend of the friendless. He's the hope to the hopeless. The illest conductor, the best orchestrator, by the far he's the dopest. Created the moon, created the sun by using his vocals. Whenever a problem arises, solved, he's already spoken. Created the light and saw that it was all good. Created the land and sea, it was all good. Created the plants and trees and it was all good. See, in the air or in the sea, it's all good. That's what it be. Created the day and night and it was all good. Created the animals and they are all good. Created you and me and we are all good. See, when my God is in control, facts I'll show us all good. I put this on God, that is all good. He's always showing up like I know he would. In every situation, in every hood, suburbs, ghettos, uptown, around the world. I put this on God, that he's all good. He's always showing up like I know he would. In every situation, in every hood.
We have an amazing guest today. I hate to take I'm not taking over, but I will say I have been relentlessly tracking you down for like 2 years now, probably trying to figure out how to contact you, how to ask questions, how to get a hold of you. And it was very tricky, but I don't know what happened, but like 2 days ago, I contacted your Facebook, and it just happened that you guys were like, you had been like really tracking us down hard. We'll do it. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we had some preparation. I will say that. I did read a good portion of your book. And we did some looking up, and your life deserves to be on this podcast being told. And that's what we do. We contact people and we get their life story, because a lot of it deals with my life story. I'm a recovering addict as well. So we all three they formed the podcast and I produce it. So welcome to Humble Heartbeat.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. This is an absolute honor. And thank you, so much, Ty, for your persistence.
No problem.
It does pay off. I hunted him down, so he hunted you down.
Yeah. Keisha did hunt me down. She did.
Yes. So welcome, Kyle. We're really interested in your story and your journey as an author. We do own a publishing company, The Humble Heartbeat, and this is our podcast, The Humble Heartbeat Speaks. So welcome. First of all, I want you to, is there any questions that you don't want to talk about, or is there anything off the table? Okay, great.
As far as I know, we're an open book.
Okay, so our podcast.
I probably won't give you my social, but more than that, I think we're good.
Our podcast is based on uncharted conversations. So, along with Chrissy and Ty, we talk about trauma, grief, addiction, recovery, all of our things in life where we have our ebbs and flows in our journey, and we're all Christians. So welcome, and we'd love to hear your story, and we'll be asking lots of questions. So the firing squad's coming at you.
I'm here for it. Okay,
so you recently just wrote your book, and it was published in 2026. So Can you start there and then kind of give us, the story?
Yeah, so I guess it kind of started So a year and a half ago, a filmmaker reached out to me. His name's Tej, and he's a fantastic human being, also a believer. He's worked on a lot of different projects. He's been involved in projects movies you've seen from Hollywood. Like he's a top-notch guy, and he had reached out to me, and about a year and a half ago, so it would have been January of 2025, he had reached out to me and said, "Hey man, I think I'm supposed to make a movie about your life." And I'm like, oh boy, yeah. See, my wife and I had kind of moved on and had a pretty wild past, but for really the last 5 or 6 years, really had moved on from it, and we're business leaders and community leaders, and I'm even on city council in my small town, and a lot of our neighbors didn't know, and really after I turned my life over to Christ, and I had really walked away from that old life, and so there was really kind of a hard line.
Pre-Kyle, post-Kyle.
Yeah, I didn't know what this would stir up, and so we weren't exactly sure if we were ready for it or not ready for it. So we didn't say yes right away. But in June of 2025, and God had kind of put it on my heart to start writing anyways. I had written a lot in prison, and I had, while I was incarcerated, I was able to get some college credits from a really prestigious school that offered a liberal arts in prison program. And so I had some really great teachers. And so I was really lucky and really blessed and to have some really excellent writing instruction in my life. And but anyway, but I'd gotten out and I really had been just running and gunning, and so I didn't really have time or the mental space to write. But so I started writing in January of 2025, and then right around June of 2025, my wife and I finally said yes. We launched Killing Kyle Orth Facebook page because we needed to raise some money. We had a goal of raising $34,000 towards the movie project in 90 days, which we thought was ambitious. We had wrote a few stories on Facebook. They had been viewed over 10 million times early on. The Facebook page had kind of exploded, and we got lucky. We ended up raising $44,000 in 30 days instead of $34,000 in 90 days. In fact, we were
impressive. Yeah.
We were so overwhelmed by the response that we ended up just turning it off. Like, oh man, what do we got here? And so, so we got a lot of really great feedback right out the gate. And so we started filming all through last year and also working on my book. And I was really lucky to have my wife who was willing to, because we have a toddler and rental properties and we run a business. And, so it would not have been possible if she didn't sacrifice a lot in running our household.
Right.
It's a whole team.
Yeah. But I could lock myself away and really focus on this. So anyways, that was a really long answer to your question, but that's how we kind of got here. So
Kyle, can you hold up your book and tell who published your book?
I didn't bring one. Do you have yours?
That's okay. It's okay.
No, I don't have mine. No, I don't have mine.
Let me see.
But no,
I know it's on Amazon. And
yeah.
So do you have your own website? Do you have your own? Okay.
Yeah, so you can
we'll
find
get all
out
the
about
logistics and add that to your bio.
Who published your book, by the way? Because
it was a publishing company. I hear some of, I don't know if you guys, if that picks up all right, but there's a bunch of
thank you.
So we, so there was a publishing company called Acorn Publishing. Its own, and so he did a really nice job and helped launch it and had a lot of support behind it, and we were really lucky we went number one. We were actually number one bestseller in 4 categories.
Wow.
Nice.
Which was really cool.
Congratulations.
We were the number one new release across all categories. So that was cool and unexpected. I didn't know.
No, it is unexpected. Yeah. I can see that.
So the book's done really well, which I didn't expect. So,
well, no, that's what you said when we talked. You're kind of like this small town guy who just wrote a book and it kind of exploded.
Yeah,
pretty much. You weren't you didn't think all this was going to come to you.
Yeah,
but it's good that But your life, though, I don't read much books. I read my book and I've read some others, but with dyslexia and my background of learning, I stay away from books. But I read yours to get prepared, and from the beginning to the end, you can't put it down. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it because I have so many notes here, but I'm not, it's hard to even go through what you've been through. I don't even know how you're still here.
Grace of God.
I mean,
yes.
It really is. I mean, the whole book's true. I mean, do you want to go through some of your book?
No.
Yeah, we can just, if you guys want, we can just jump right into kind of the boiled down version of kind of my testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short because I know we're kind of pressed on time, but I was born in a small town outside of the Quad Cities, outside Davenport, called Bluegrass. Grew up on an acreage. I had an alcoholic mom, and kind of an absentee father. I think my dad wanted to be in my life, but my mom was so crazy and hard to be around that he just created some distance. And but yeah, so I ended up moving to the Quad Cities when I was probably going into third grade, and just had a really chaotic upbringing and starting around mental health and alcohol and drug addiction. And I was the youngest of 7, and all of my siblings got taken from the house. Then they were much older than me. And so I was actually the last one to be removed. But I ended up taking off right around 6th grade, and so I dropped out in 6th grade and was kind of living on the streets and couch surfing and doing that for some number of years. And so about 2 years went by. I was just kind of living on the street, and I was probably 13, 14 at that age. A friend of mine's mom was like, well, hey, if I helped you find your dad, would you be interested in having a relationship with him? And by then I was really feral. I'd been living on the streets and been kind of the streets. But I was like, yeah, sure. If you want to find him, I'd be happy to meet up with him. Well, she did. She found him, and I ended up meeting up with my dad at a Hardee's, and he had kind of talked me into moving back with him from to a small town. The Quad Cities was a large area, had a large Chicago influence, and it was kind of rough. And he had talked me into moving back to a very small town. And we tried doing school again, but by then I was so deranged and such a product of the streets that it just wasn't possible. And so that exploded pretty quickly. And then he ended up sticking me in some placements, and I was like, man, you could have just left me where I was at. I was fine on the streets. And so he struggled with drug addiction and mental health stuff too. But anyway, so wound up in placements, kind of bobbed around, and he ended up passing away, and I got some money from back Social Security from him. And so I left the placement when I was 17 and moved out or moved into my own place with this money. And the money grew. I burned through that pretty quickly. And so I wound up, we started breaking into houses, and we broke into a lot of houses, and eventually there's no right house to break into, but there's definitely the wrong house. And I broke into the wrong house, which was the town I was living in, DA's house, the district attorney.
When I read that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. When you break into a house, people are looking for me, but when you break into the DA's house, you got the whole world looking for you. So got caught for that, got a lot of time out of that. And so then basically from 17 until 25, I was in and out of prison pretty regularly and did a lot of time in between.
So wait a minute, hold on 1 second there, Kyle.
Yeah.
When you were between 14 and 17, were you using then, or were you just running amok?
I had experimented and I drank and I would say it was all very experimental, and I don't think I had crossed into addiction yet. It was, I kind of just bobbed around and just did what everybody did.
I noticed in your, go ahead, Keisha.
What was your drug of choice?
What it eventually became was cocaine and methamphetamine. At that time, I don't know, it was like some ecstasy or marijuana or drinking. It definitely had an evolution, like it grew.
Because I noticed that through your book, as I kept on going through the chapters, you've introduced the names of some stuff that you were doing, but you never really said you crushed the threshold of addiction yet. And I just kept on wondering, like, when that time's going to come for you that you're going to realize that I do have a problem. But you went through a lot of stuff before you. But go ahead, sorry.
No problem. So ended up getting out of prison when I was 25. And I was homeless, like living on the streets. I knew how to be homeless from when I was a kid, but bobbed around. Eventually, I found a homeless shelter. Like I got out in January of 2013, and it was cold, Iowa cold. Like it doesn't care how tough you are, and eating out dumpsters with the whole thing. And eventually, I found a homeless shelter that took me in, and I lived there for a while, and I decided kind of randomly that I wanted to sell cars, and I thought I might be good at it. And I dug through the clothes closet of this homeless shelter. It was called Mission of Hope, and I found what I thought was dress clothes, and I put them on, and I looked like a clown, but I thought I looked good. And I walked up to the only car dealership I could think of. It was
you gotta tell the whole story too. I read this part.
Yeah.
Like, it's awesome. Like, tell the whole story.
Through the car dealership, or
pretty much like trying to get the job and everything.
Yeah, so I had walked in, and I looked like a goofball, and some receptionist was sitting at the desk, and I'm here to apply for a job. And one of the managers had been walking by and saw how ridiculous I looked, and they wanted to be a general manager. And usually you had to go through like a hiring process to get hired. Well, I looked so ridiculous that it played to my benefit. He ended up like, well, I don't want to waste anybody else's time. Let me just pull this kid in, and I'll blow him out of here. And he ends up pulling me into his office, and he was this very mafioso guy. He was Greek and very tough guy, and pulls me into his office, and we're like kind of talking, and I'm really enthusiastic. And he's like, well, did you play any sports in high school? And I'm like, I didn't even go to high school. I dropped out in 6th grade. And he's like, well, you got to have a high school diploma. We sell new BMWs, and we take credit after stuff. And he's like, well, you don't have like a background or anything. And I'm like, nope, I got 58 felonies and 100 misdemeanors. And we get talking some more. And he's like, well, you at least have a driver's license, right? And I'm like, nope, I'm 25. I've never had one. And he's like, well, Kyle, why'd you walk all the way up here? You had to know you weren't going to get a job here. And I looked him in the eyes and I said, because, sir, every single day you don't hire me, your company's losing money. And I was just as surprised as he was. And, it's hard or something. And he ended up giving me a job. And
that's amazing.
And then with that, I got a sign-on bonus, and I was able to go buy some clothes. And but I really stepped into.
I'm going to ask you this: was it a God with all the little seeds? And I know I've read some things about your book and stuff too. For all the seeds that were planted through your life, do you think that was a God's moment, or do you think that was just a pivotal shift in your life?
You know,
that he knew that he could craft.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, I believe God's hands in all things, and so
Sure.
He likely had his hand in it. But yeah, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure how to answer that.
No, I that's a good question because I think that they are little seeds he's putting in there.
Yeah.
I mean, just from getting to read your book and everything, it's just, for one, I can't believe you're still alive, and yeah, I think he did play a hand.
Yeah.
So I have a really off the cuff question, which I'm actually good for. So. Because I just keep imagining this like feral, like I'm thinking like he needs his own like feral cat character, and but feral cats, they do what they have to do to get what they want, right?
Yeah, you're right.
You spent a long time in that feral environment. So do you think that played into your hand when you went for the job? You're like, look, I'm not leaving here without a job. I live the feral life. I know how to like just clutch in until I get what I want. And I think sometimes the aura plays into that, where they're like, this guy's not going to go anywhere until I give him a job. He might turn out to be like the rock star, which I'm sure you are. But you think that, I don't want to say like prepared you, but it kind of does at that lifestyle of just, I'm just not going to give up till I get what I want. It's what God is guiding me to get when you're saved. But when you're not saved, you're like, I'm going for what I want, and I'm just not letting go. And it just keeps bringing to mind for me like like we have to get someone to draw you a feral cat, you as a feral cat. And have your own little anime character.
That would be awesome.
I really like, I'd be like, I go way off cuff sometimes. I love your thoughts on that, like how that particular style life, because a lot of people don't understand exactly what that means to live a feral lifestyle. You're scrapping for everything.
Anywhere. You literally were, because I was never homeless because I never got really caught. But whenever you describe like your first time eating, that chicken sandwich, like I literally wrote that down in my notes. Like I couldn't believe it. Like that's really homeless.
Yeah, the dumpster of KFC. Yeah. Yeah, I would say it definitely played to my advantage. So in the car industry, a lot of people fail into the car industry. So like a lot of times it attracts people who like, I don't know, they thought they were going to achieve something much higher in life, and then that didn't work out, and so they fail into the car industry. That wasn't how I looked at it at all. I'm like, this is the greatest opportunity I've ever had. I looked at it like I just won the Super Bowl. Like I was thrilled to be there. The dealership I worked at had 17 salespeople, and they kind of moped around, and they kind of carried themselves like, like this is like not a great job. And like, to me, it's like,
that's everything.
Hit the lottery.
I had doctors on the same, like this represented my ticket out of poverty. And it very much was. And so I think, how things kind of progressed. So I started there, and in the middle of April, by the end of April, I had sold 7 cars, which put me not in last place. May, I sold 21 cars, which put me in 3rd place. By my 3rd month there, I had sold 27 cars, which put me in 1st place, and I was in 1st place for the next 2.5 years. And I was in the top 1% of BMW salesmen in the nation. And but with it, like it came all the things, and like I had never really had money before, and
overwhelming.
And I had this belief that money would solve all my problems. And I was wrong. Like we know that's not true, and so it only amplified all my problems. And so I began spiraling out of control, and
self-sabotage.
Drugs, alcohol, girls, all of it, came, and I still succeeded. I was still like on paper moving in a direction, but internally I was spiraling out of control. About 2.5 later, so I was working out with a friend of mine who was actually also a pastor, but we didn't really ever talk about that stuff. and I'm in his gym and we're working out, and I must have been bragging. I had a huge ego, and I told him, so I must have told him how good of a month I had, or whatever new girlfriend I had, or whatever I had going on, and he kind of nodded and he said, "Kyle, mark my words, your talent will take you places your character can't keep you." And that was a really pivotal moment in my life. Looking back, I'm like, I wish I could have received it. I wish I was in a place, but yeah, he said, your talent will take you someplace your character won't keep you. And it bounced off me like a rubber bullet. But I look back and I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have latched onto that. Little did I know, 3 months later, I would be on the national news. Wow. I because of how many cars have been selling, like at a lot of dealerships, you get a demo, and so I was driving a brand new BMW M4, and I'm zipping through town. I'm showing off for a girl, and the cops get behind me. It's 3:00 in the morning. I decide I'm not going to stop for the police. The police chase me. I'm ripping through the city like a wrecking ball. I turn left, I turn right. I'm trying to lose these cops. I pull into this alleyway. I had lost the cops by driving up the wrong way of a one-way. I zip into an alleyway. I'm pulling all the way through the alleyway, and another cop sees me. So I put the car in reverse. I'm going 45 miles an hour in reverse. I hit the telephone pole. I decide I'm not done. I try to drive around the cop car. They think I'm driving towards them. They end up shooting the car 26 times. I ended up getting shot 3 times. I got shot through my left arm, my right shoulder, my left leg. They smashed out the window. They dragged me out. And as I'm bleeding out in this alleyway, the final thought crosses my mind. Is this it?
Yeah.
Right.
The next 24 hours was just absolute chaos. I remember going through surgery and waking up, and my hands handcuffed to the bed, and I opened my eyes, and there's a room full of police, and I'm just like, why didn't you just kill me? Believe it or not, I only got probation out of that deal. I got really lucky, maybe, and you would think you'd go through something like that, and you would think it would be a wake up call. It's like, oh man, I almost died. I'm on probation. I just lost my job, but I need to get it together. No, things spiraled out of control.
Was that the beginning of the spiral? Once you got caught, was that the beginning of the spiral? Or was it just fuel to the fire? And the reason why I'm asking fuel to the fire. Yeah. And the reason why I'm asking is because I've seen this many times. When people start getting caught and the consequences start forming around them, and they understand that the consequences are greater than the pain that they're going through, because now it's exposed, right? It's exposed. Yeah. And there's your character. There's how you treat people, right? And all the manipulation is just surrounding you. So the reason why I asked that, if it was your fuel or your fire, is because at that point, did you know then that's the path you were going to take, or did you think that that was the only choice?
I feel like so people that I know that are just in constant states of crises, you don't really think. You just kind of go from the thing to the thing, And so like I was in such tunnel vision, and I was also bipolar, and I was dealing with mania, and so like I'm just like the best way I can think about it is that I was in a constant limbic state, and I was going from one crisis to the next, and like I had no peripheral vision, like I couldn't see anything other than what was exactly right in front of me from one situation to the next. I mean, that's what living in crisis does. That's what poverty mindset does. Like, there are all these things, you're just only able to and so like, I almost felt I felt like I almost felt like I had no free will. I felt like I was just swept up in this current of chaos. Yeah. And there was moments when I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get off. I gotta get out of this river. And I just couldn't. Like, it just felt like I was just so controlled by this reptilian brain of just responding to fight and flight. You know, it just
You don't know anything else. You're just after that one thing. Yeah.
yeah. And so I don't think, I was on this roller coaster. I just couldn't get off. And met a girl, the same girl I was showing off for in the car. And I quickly, so even though I had a hard time walking, I was in a wheelchair for a while, I ended up getting a job where I could travel. There's car salesmen that travel around the nation, and they put on mega sales. They're really unethical, high pressure. They send out a bunch of mailers. People think they won a prize. You come in to collect your prize, and it's just hammer, 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 hammer. And I did that for a living for a while. And as I traveled the country doing that, I also got involved in another criminal enterprise, and things got so bad that we're just going to skip over that. And
It's called the hidden chapter.
It's okay.
Yeah.
and so I ended up getting arrested in 2018, January of 2018, and everything came all crashing down. And
Was that in Florida?
Huh?
Was that in Florida?
No, Florida would have been like one of the times I went to prison between. That was before I started selling cars.
So I want to ask you about,
one of my
I
parole
want to ask you about this story because the YouTube story, and I kind of giggled when I seen it because it reminds me of my family. So the guy they interviewed the people, and I think that's when you were going down the wrong way, and that's when you got shot. But the guy was like, he has superhuman strength, because it's all of your adrenaline and it's everything that, and you're like, oh my God, I could see you in things. Sorry, my dog's singing. I can see you in that experience of things that's happened in my life with my family. So I can relate to a lot of things and dysfunction. But what I was and I'm really amazed with your prosecuting story. Like for me, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And the grace of God that's all over you that would have. Had it been, and I'm not saying it could happen to anybody else because I know it happens every day in the court of law, but how did you get from all of these felonies, all of these things to where you're at today and still alive? Like, again, I understand the story, but it is fascinating that it doesn't seem real.
Yeah. Yeah, so probably just the grace of God. Yeah, so in 2018, so I went to prison in 2018. I got a 2-year sentence, which was laughable in comparison to everything I was involved in. Honestly, I should have got a life sentence, and I was really blessed. And I got a 2-year sentence, but usually on a 2-year sentence, you can get out in like 8 months. Well, while in prison for that, I assault a guard, and I get sent to Iowa's maximum security prison, and I spent 7 months in the hole. And I'm in the hole, and like there's nothing to do, and the lights are bright, and you can't control anything, and the only way you know what time it is by the trays coming in through your door. And all you get each day is 4 squares of toilet paper as your only possession, and on your breakfast tray. And you can't turn the lights off. You can't even flush your own toilet. The toilet flushes automatically once an hour. And for 7 months, I just paced back and forth. And I wasn't a believer. I wasn't a believer. I kind of peripherally believed there was a God, but never really had. I'd lived in too much chaos to ever really think about theological things, and so it never really occurred to me. And but I started praying because there was nothing else to do. And one of the things I just kept praying over was, God, please give me a good wife from a good family, so that her family would become my family. I prayed that over and over and over again. God, please give me a good wife from a good family so that her family would become my family. It was really indicative of my orphan spirit. And so I just prayed that over and over and over again. And eventually, so I got out of prison January 14th of 2020, get out, go right back. So I guess one thing I had forgot to mention, after I got shot from the police, while I was working at the car dealership, I got really into cocaine. And then after I got shot by the police, as I was traveling around, I got really into meth, and then eventually became intravenous. I shot up meth. And so then when I got out in 2020, I went right back to what I knew, which is the needle. And so I was intravenous, and I was living in a trap house, a small town, and I got very sick very quickly. Like intravenous just expedites everything, and so I got very sickly very fast. And so on February 19th, 2020, I was really desperate. I was really sick, and I just remember thinking, like, is this it? Is this all life has? Because if it is, I'm over it. And I, in a state of desperateness, I had some Christians in my life who had kind of planted seeds over some years, and so it's 3:00 in the morning. I'm Googling weird things. Like, so one of the things I was Googling was, if you don't believe Jesus is God, are you screwed? Which is like a stupid thing to Google, but it's just my mindset. Well, it prompted me to reach out to this guy named Bart, who had been a mentor in my life and who had showed up. He was a strong believer and business leader. And I was like, man, I need help, man. And so I thought of Bart, and I reached out to him, and I ended up, we agreed to meet the next morning, so on February 20th, at a church that had a cafe in downtown Cedar Rapids. And I drove my stolen Jaguar car to the church. This is a story for another time. And so I drove my stolen car to the church to meet them. And I walk in, and I probably look deranged and sick, and I hadn't slept in probably close to 2 weeks, probably hadn't eaten in 2 weeks. And I walk in, and I felt like people were looking at me. I felt like people were judging me, and I was very tattered. And but that probably was all in my mind. And that's the other thing. I was very paranoid. I had a lot of delusion, and I walk in, I sit down with them, and Bart had invited a pastor from that church named Richard. Richard was an on-staff theologian, very wise and knowledgeable in the Bible. And this was a really large church. And so it was me and Bart and Richard, and I'm talking to Richard, and they're talking to me about things like love and grace and forgiveness, and like none of this is making any sense to me. And I'm really like, I feel like I'm in a fishbowl. I can't concentrate. I'm coming down. I hadn't used in several hours, and I'm like, I'm really getting withdrawals. Yeah, and I remember I got a small amount of meth left on me, and so I hop up and I go to the church bathroom, and I draw it up, and by then I couldn't shoot in any of my arms, and like really the only place I could shoot is my foot. And so I got my sock and shoe off in the bathroom, and I shoot up in my foot. And I'm walking back, and my foot's still throbbing. And I sit down at the table, and I start to clear. The vision clears, and I can hear. And the fishbowl effect is kind of, so now I can hear a little bit. And I'm thinking about all these things. I'm talking to this theologian, and I'm thinking about all the things. And I'm like, Noah's in the ark, and how'd they get all the animals on the boat? And I'm thinking about Jonah and the whale, and like, how'd that work? He got swallowed by this whale. That doesn't make any sense. And like, I'm thinking about Adam and Eve, and like, were they really like, the mothers of all the people? And like, all of a sudden, and then the Trinity, like, none of this stuff makes any sense to me. But I remember leaning forward and asking Richard, I said, Richard, is it okay if I choose to believe Jesus is God, even though none of this makes sense? And Richard leaned in, and he said, with his grand theological wisdom, he said, yeah, duh, that's what faith is. And it had never occurred to me that faith was a choice. I always thought faith was this feeling of absolute certainty. If you didn't know about Adam and Eve, and you didn't know about Noah's Ark, and you didn't believe all that stuff with 100% certainty, you weren't saved. And so, like, was my belief. And I had no idea I could choose to believe, even though I didn't understand any of that. And Richard and Bart and had the wisdom to say, well, let's cement all this to prayer. And so I bowed my head, and for the first time, I accepted Christ in my heart. I asked for forgiveness, and I asked him to be my Savior. And, slowly things in my life started falling in place. And I kind of went into it what I felt like was scientifically, like, I was like, all right, God, I'm doing this 90 days. And if in 90 days, I'm still miserable, then I'm out. But so that's what I did. I gave it my all. And for 90 days, I believed without a doubt that Jesus was God, and I lived my life accordingly. And slowly over those 90 days, things in my life started shifting in a radical way. Some Christians invited me to move in with them, and so I moved in with them. And I got a job working for a ministry as a development director. I was good at sales, and so I started raising money for this program called Hope CEA, which is a transitional living program for men, which a program I should have been in probably, but I was asked to be the
probably didn't get that choice, right?
Yeah. And so I was working in a ministry, and I'd only been a believer for a few weeks. And I also am a director of development for a well-established ministry. I'm like, well, that's pretty wild. And then, within that 90 days, I met the woman who would become my wife, who was exactly what I prayed for, who she had been preparing she worked for a ministry called Bridgehaven, which is a pregnancy support center. And she hadn't dated or anything for 10 years after college. She set herself aside for her future husband. And I jokingly really? You set yourself aside for 10 years and were faithful to God, and that was the best you could get. But anyway, so I met her, and her and I started dating, and it was rocky, and we went through some hard times. And that first year was really, really challenging. And but our engagement was very short. We only dated and were engaged for a total of 7 months. It's very short. We were also committed to doing things the right way. So I guess if you're waiting for marriage and everything, you're ready to
speed it up. Yeah.
Forward. So I'm getting a little weird.
Wait a minute. I'm going to ask you the question, but did you know that she was the right person for you? She was your person?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. God had revealed that to both of us. And so, so that first year of sobriety, it was really hard, and I struggled with a lot of things, and I was saved, but I didn't feel like I was walking in full spiritual freedom. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I just still had some things. I was just I felt like things were trending in the right direction, but it's gosh, I need a shot in the arm here. There's something here. So I had a friend of mine who reached out to me. He's like, hey, have you ever gone through deliverance?
Oh,
and
yes.
This is the weird part, right? This is the part that charismatics love and make the people from the charismatic churches shout hallelujah. But so I went through deliverance, and the person who did it, there was a team of people. There was 12 of them, and they prayed over my wife and I. They believed that that we were one flesh, and so they would do it on both of us. And they believed, and I can talk in more detail about deliverance if you want, but I'll tell you what it wasn't. It wasn't some cowboys in an alleyway who were trying to cast out demons and stuff. I'm not for that. I'm not with that. I think that stuff's more harmful than good, and I kind of cringe. This was a very deliberate. It was very anticlimactic. There was no weird convulsing, all that. They also believe that if you're saved, which I was, you can't be possessed, or I wasn't demon possessed. But they do believe that I had some demonic attachments.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, so I want to ask you this question because I think it's important. Christy and I have both had hands laid on us.
Yeah.
And knocked us clean out. Never had been in a room, never seen it before. We were at a conference, and they called they did the altar call. We went up, and literally it was like I got hit in the head with lightning and down I went. But that's another thing. But my question is, when you were going for deliverance, did you think it was also kind of like your, like in alcoholism, you have to go back and make amends? Did you kind of feel like it was that your period of amends before deliverance? Or I'm asking you just in relation, did you have that kind of feeling and then you got deliverance? Like how did that feel for you?
So like the reason why it took me so long to get clean was I knew I had a problem with drugs right away. Mm-hmm. I was, for that first year that her and I were together, I wasn't yet convinced that I needed to be done drinking. And like the alcohol, like, so I kind of,
so you didn't have any boundaries.
Yeah. And so I was basically clean off drugs, but I was still struggling with alcohol. And so like I kept on like winding up drunk, and I was like, I was never really an alcoholic prior to quitting doing drugs. And so like I was really struggling with like, why do I keep winding up drunk? And it was really hard on our marriage, and I was working through all those things. And so I was just, once again, just really, really desperate. And so I don't think I was working through amends. I wasn't involved in a 12-step program or anything like that. And I just wanted to quit doing destructive things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, gosh, why can't I just break free of this thing? I'm saved. God, I'm yours.
Addiction, yeah.
Like, why do I keep returning to my vomit? Like, and so deliverance was like, all right, well, I keep doing these stupid things and I don't understand why. Maybe I need to go deeper. And it was just, and I didn't really know or understand deliverance. I just happened to have a friend who was pretty good at, like you, who had some experience with it. And, they break up deliverance. So this was like several hours long, and, there was probably 6 people in the room, and then 6 people who weren't in the room, and these people fasted ahead of time, and they had kind of gotten cleansed beforehand too, and I didn't know what to expect. I thought like things were going to fall off walls and my head was going to spin around, but it was really boring, and none of that happened. And they kind of break demonic attachments kind of into 2 categories. This isn't like if you asked me to grab my Bible and to defend this, I don't know if I could, but this is just how they look at it. And that you have generational curses. You have things that are affecting your life that aren't your fault. That can be a lot of different things. There could have been sex abuse or any number of things that happened somewhere down your genealogy that wasn't your fault. I had some of that stuff. And then there's these other attachments that are like, you can't hang out in a barbershop and not get a haircut. So I believe meth in particular, all drugs, but meth, for whatever reason,
the evil
to be very, very demonic. There's a book that's beautifully written called Meth Equals Sorcery, and I believe that like meth isn't like witchcraft. Meth is witchcraft. And you can't play around in that arena, especially to the extent that I did, and walk away unscathed.
Yeah.
And so, I went through deliverance. Now, I do want to preface that I don't believe deliverance is for everybody. Like, I do believe that, and I don't understand why, and I couldn't defend it if you asked me to, but like, for some number of people, they turn their life over to Christ, and these things are gone. They are miraculously healed at the time of conversion. Some other people, they turn their life over to Christ and they read their Bible and they attend a church and they go to worship, those sorts of things. And kind of slowly but surely over time, those things lessen, and you're in the sanctification process, and that stuff falls away, and you get some sort of spiritual freedom then. And so I've definitely seen that happen. And then there's some other people that's like, yeah, brother, you might need some deliverance. And so I don't want to present deliverance like everybody needs to go through it, because I do not believe that. But I certainly felt like I did. And it was a weird thing. I went through deliverance, and these things that I've been struggling with my entire life were gone. A day went by, a week went by, months have gone by, now years have gone by, and I'm completely, like the obvious things is, I'm clean and sober. I was bipolar. I was radically healed from my bipolarism. There were some other things that I was struggling with. All that stuff was gone, lust type of stuff, and gone, like I was healed. And so after we went through deliverance, like things started happening really rapidly for us, and in a good way. And we were able to acquire. We got some rental properties, and those all went really well. And I eventually, my wife and I got pregnant, and I was like, "Oh, I love working for the ministry, but we got to make some money."
Support somebody, yeah.
And so I re-entered into competitive sales and did really well at that. Went into a different industry. Was in the construction industry for a while, and I was the general manager at that company I had left. And now I'm back into the car industry, and I'm a general manager at the store I work at, and working towards ownership yeah, so I serve on 3 boards, 2 ministry boards and 1 drug treatment board, and
nice.
And now I'm an author.
So did you think that you were ever going to get your story on paper to tell it?
Yeah, I did. Like I think I had always believed that this was going to come out. Yeah, I feel like that was one of the things that God had always kind of told me. I didn't know it was going to come as fast as it did.
That's what I was going to ask you next. So I was afraid to tell my story. I had a lot of generational curses and shame with my family name. And I wore that like a badge of honor, like ego. I wore it for the longest time, but I also knew that it was holding me back. And so when I was offered, everybody else had an opportunity to write stories and, publish their books. And I never, ever dreamed that would be my portion, right? And so I'm at a conference, and then the lady says, well, you should write a book too. And I was like, I'm not writing a book. I'm not telling my secrets. I'm not telling anybody about me, all of those things. And so the whole book is stories of survival. And I'll tell you, it was so freeing for me, really, really just freedom for me to write my story, even though it was difficult and I wasn't prepared for the backlash that would come with it. But the best thing in my life gave me freedom. And freedom is telling the truth. Even when people don't understand it, don't know what it's like, haven't walked down your path or your shoes. And I understand, having a family in addiction, having dysfunction, mental illness, all those things. It has been my story as well. But what I want to say is I'm so proud that you get to tell the story, even when you're unprepared, right? Because even when you think, now Chrissy had a lot of success with her book, and it was really like a flower blossoming. For me, I didn't have that experience. And then I did a documentary, and it blew up, and it made me feel worse because so many people really dragged me through the mud thinking that my story is not true. And it is true, and it's factual. And that's what people don't understand. Even though your story is significant and it has outrageous things in it, but they're all factual. Like it is your life. This is our experience, right? And telling my experience, people just drugged me through the whole mud. But again, it's freedom in telling the story. And you get to change so many other people's perspective and their lives. And you get to touch them in ways of not collaboration, but like knowing that you're not alone. Right.
Yeah, it's very inspiring. People, when it comes to books, they draw things from the characters that are in the books, right? It's proven. It happens, whether it's fiction, nonfiction. People can draw things from their life. I take it back to that, if they can do it, I can do it mentality that people have to have when you're struggling, right? There has to be some light somewhere that you can see, and hopefully it's not a train coming down the track. But, it's like you've got to draw from that. So I have a couple questions. I'm just kind of hanging out here in the background. How long did it take you to realize, because I know you were saying like you just kept getting drawn to the chaos and drawn to the chaos. Did it ever shift in your mind that those are trauma responses? Because you went from traumatic experience to traumatic experience.
I didn't come to that conclusion until years later. I honestly I really like you had said that going through this writing process has been really healing for me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, one, you guys know this, but social media is a very hungry monster, and so you got to constantly be feeding it. And so I publish a story every Wednesday, and so through that, I'm having that hard deadline has forced me to learn about my psyche and what was it really like, and what are some of these other things, and trying to put words to things I had struggled with my entire life in my youth, and so I learned about things like trauma responses and limbic loops and other psychological things I was struggling with, and so this has been really freeing, and I also give. It's been increasing quite a bit, but a lot of public talks and mm-hmm. having to speak on a lot of different subjects. And so that's also forced me to all right, I got to figure out what these things are called, right? To put words to them and help inspire and help people work through them. And so I kind of did it backwards. I kind of got through the junk, and then I was like, all right, how did I do this?
Right.
What happened here? What were those things called? And so,
I feel like all of us, because everybody has trauma, right? And we don't know how to deal with it generally when we have it. I always wish, especially for my stuff, someone would be standing there with a little sign that says, this is a trauma response. You're not going crazy. This is a trauma response. Find the trauma, figure the trigger, and you're good. And it's very hard, like you said, when you're in that psyche, you're just I just want to be free. I want to be free. What do I have to do to be free? And we don't ever come down to that level. If we address the trauma, we can be free. But, we're up here but I got to break it here. But, the shackle's down here. Yeah. And so I'm always interested in what point did people realize, okay, that was a lot of trauma that I didn't have time to deal with, because into one. And the trauma response, but also the mental health toll. Mm-hmm. First off, when you said deliverance, first thing coming to my mind was the movie, and I was like, please don't be that. Please don't be that. No. That is
people ask me all the time, what does it take to change your life? Mm-hmm. And for me, it required death. Mm-hmm. It required death to self. It required death to ego. It required death to pride. It required death to selflessness. It required death to my victim story. Now, what that doesn't mean is man up, toughen up, and all that. It's acknowledging it, coming to peace with it, and then working through it and moving on. I didn't cause it, but it's my responsibility to work through it and move on, and I realized that the things that I didn't deal with would become my daughter's burden to deal with, and I wasn't prepared to do that. And so it was death to ego, death to pride, death to selfishness, death to victimhood, and so that's why I didn't come up with a name. The movie producer came up with a name, but that's why we landed on the name Killing Kyle Orth. So my last name used to be Orth. I changed it after I got shot by a police, and it became Hunter. But that was it. It was a death. And luckily, I didn't kill Kyle Orth. God killed Kyle Orth, and so, but it requires death. If you are living a life of crisis or drug addiction, or if you're a narcissist, or if you're whatever it is, name the thing, you got to die to it. And so it requires death. And so I like that word because I don't think we should deal lightly with sin.
Right.
And so you got to die to it. You have to lay the stuff at the foot of the cross and kill it.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the Bible. People, there's misconception, right? Like when it calls for like death and people think like it's, I'm a goner, I'm out of here. But a lot of times it's exactly what you said. I had a Christian counselor that told me that parts of yourself have to die before he can bring forth who he needs you to be and who you were put on this earth and born to be. And it was a really hard concept for me. It was really hard.
Death is required for resurrection to occur. You can't have one without the other. You can't resurrect something if it wasn't previously dead.
That's true. That's very true. So I have another question. I'm like heavy on the questions now. So when you're writing your book, as a book coach, I deal with this with people all the time that want to write their book. So you're writing your book. How do you deal with the emotional recoil that comes from having to go back and relive those parts of your story to get them in a book? Because I feel like people are like, oh, I can do this, no problem. And then, they have to start writing about those times, and you can't really gloss over those if you're really trying to tell like your true story. Like you got to get into the dirty details, as we like to call it. And a lot of people they kind of bow out when they get the first little recoil. And I know Keisha and I don't want to say counsel, but we talk heavily to people that want to write their story and be like, let's talk to you about emotional recoil that comes from when your mind is going to take you back there. But are you mentally prepared to deal with what you're going to have to deal with there? So can you talk a little bit about how you approach that?
Yeah, you got to have support. So I would say one of the things that, so post-deliverance, in some ways it was like I went through deliverance and then all that junk is the old me. And so I really was able to psychologically differentiate from the old me and the new me. In fact, I kind of ran into like when I was writing a story, it's like, gosh, I feel like I'm writing a story about somebody else,
right.
That I just had ups, and so I was protected a little bit of that because somehow I was in it probably spiritually, God probably did it, but like it became, what was hard for me was, I felt like, gosh, I feel like I'm telling the story of somebody else. And so I had to combat that. But one of the things I had done post-deliverance was I had guardrails in my life, safety nets and mechanisms. And so one of those safety nets was I have a long commute to work every day. I work 6 days a week and Monday through Friday. So every Monday and Wednesday for 20 or 30 minutes, I'm on the phone with one of my mentors, a guy, that we talk through and we work through things. And then Tuesdays and Thursday, I meet with another one and that we talk through, we work through things. And then Friday, I'm in this Bible study early morning with these great guys. And so 5 days a week, I start my day off in intentional relationship with men of God. And so that was one of my, as I'm writing this thing, I learned that my wife wasn't the person. I didn't process with her, but I had these men that I would process through and work through things with. And so that was helpful. I also what wasn't easy, the book was easy, but what had happened before the book really started taking form, we had to shoot the trailer for the movie, the trailer that you guys watched. And that was so that happened very early on, and because we needed to use it for fundraising. And so I had to sit in a room when person after person after person after person who knew the old me, who knew Kyle Orth, talked about me. And like, although that video is only, I don't know, a few minutes long, we filmed because we were going to use a lot of it for the movie too. So it was going to have dual purpose. But I had to sit through hours of listening to people. And I didn't think, like, the film producer prepared me for it. Like, hey, do you want to be here? I'm like, I think it'd be helpful if I'm here, so I can maybe ask questions and help, like, pull things out. Because a lot of them was like, well, what are we talking about? I'm like, we can, let's just talk. And I was not prepared for it. It was awful. Like, that hit me like a cinder block. And it was really hard, and it was really intense, and it took me several weeks, maybe even upwards of a month to unwind from that. Mm-hmm. And so after that, everything was pretty easy. So
did you go through a period of reconciliation to yourself, like mourning that Kyle and letting him go? Or how did you regulate yourself to move forward? That's what my question is, because a lot of times these trauma hits come, and they come in pockets, right? When you're doing a film and a book and a podcast and all the things, and you can't get away with it. And then you kind of tuck it away in your little pocket, and you go, whew, I can breathe now. But yet you don't know when it's going to hit you again. But when it hits, it's going to hit hard. Yeah. So I get it. We all get it because we've experienced it. But how do you get yourself regulated and through that reconciliation of letting it go?
I mean, to be honest, like, it only happened a couple times. One other time, I would say very minimally with the book. The book didn't, because I could go at my own pace. I could walk away. Like, I was in a very healthy place. I felt very supported. I felt very loved. I felt very much that this was the old me and the new me. Where it didn't, so it was kind of in two places. I have a daughter from a previous marriage, and I'm not in a relationship with her, but she agreed to be in the documentary. And so I haven't seen her in years, but the filmmaker saw her and filmed with her. And I really wasn't like, because I was in prison and would keep going back to prison, I wasn't in her life. And so I don't really know her at all. I desperately want to have a relationship with her. But she is just like not open to that.
Yeah.
And so we don't know each other at all, my daughter and I. And she had some very hard things to say to the camera. And that
I'm not prepared for. Yeah.
That knocked the air out of me. That was hard, like really hard. And
how old was she at that time? How old's your daughter?
She's 20 now.
Okay.
And so she was just filmed with 8 months ago, maybe. So she was 19, maybe.
Oh, wow.
And
she had 19 years to prepare for it. So, right. So and her perspective is way different than yours. So
for sure. Yeah. She has a lot of unhealed parts of her, And so, like, I thought, once again, I'm like, this isn't going to be a big deal. Like, we're going to get her perspective. It is what it is. Like, I hope healing comes out of this. I hope God intervenes. Like, I hope, I believe in a God of restoration. I hope restoration comes out of this. And like, I'm like, how bad could it be? It was. And so I wish I could sit here and tell you I dealt with that with grace and beauty and poise. I was a mess. I was, for at least a day, probably upwards of a couple days, I was
wrecked. And
like, people like the filmmaker and my wife would try to console me, and I just was.
There's no. Forget it.
Yeah. I have a 4-year-old daughter that she thinks she's 19, so I get it. Well, I don't get it yet. She's not 19, but it's going to come a day.
Yeah.
So when
she's going to have a lot to say.
Did you know
the
you
other
had a
places
daughter?
These flared up. Oops, sorry.
No, when you were in prison, did you know you had a daughter when you were in prison?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I knew. I just was I was selfish. I mean, I was selfish. Addiction is it's a selfish disease, like and I can make all the excuses I want, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, I was a selfish.
And this new chapter with this book and your success, how do you think that that's going to impact your life going forward? Like, what is your vision for what you've been through and how you want to tell your story going forward?
Sure. Well, a couple thoughts there. I mean, one, like, I'm so grateful that my daughter, my youngest daughter, Eve, she'll never know that side of me. Like, all she knows is that I'm this lovable guy that I am today, and to her, I represent stability and love and consistency. It kills me that my other daughter, I represent chaos and inconsistency, but
there's hope.
So and so I don't know. So I'm kind of in this weird, like, we successfully rolled out Killing Kyle Hunter, the book. I successfully had I had a lot of unsuccessful public speaking last year. Like, I spoke to anybody that would listen to me. I did, I don't know. I mean, last year, I probably did somewhere between 30 and 50 talks at different things, and all for free. And this year I've had, and I gradually got better in
getting your message.
Figuring out what to say and formulating a keynote, and so now I've successfully had some paid gigs, and I've gone really well, and so I want to continue doing that. And
so do you want to focus in ministry, or do you want to focus in, like, what is your vision?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So I want to have, all right, so I'm working on my second book. The second book.
We like to hear that. We like to hear from people.
It's doing really well. It's called The Script, and the thesis of it is I believe that the most important thing that determines whether somebody's going to succeed or fail in any given area of our lives is the stories we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so I believe that, so if you have two individuals coming out of prison, for instance, and one believes the world is a world of scarcity, resources are scarce, people by and large are bad, we're all competing for resources, the world is conspiring to hurt them. And then you have another guy who believes resources are abundant, the world is by and large full of people that will help you if you ask, that resources isn't a pie. In order to have a larger slice, I have to take from somebody else. That there's resources are abundant. So you got two different people telling them two different stories. You could predict reasonably well what the net result of their life will be just based off of the story they're telling themselves. And so this book is exploring that idea and really encouraging the reader to examine the stories they're telling themselves, and it dives into more things, but that's the So to answer your question, I don't want to be talking about shooting meth in my foot in church bathrooms for the rest of my life. I would like to segue out of that. I feel like this is an important message. I want to get my testimony out there, especially because I know that it's helped some people through some difficult times.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be talking about that for the rest of my life. I'm ready to begin. We're still promoting the book and the movie, but I suspect this time next year I will be done talking about those things and be talking about this new project called The Script and the stories we tell ourselves. And so as I do public talks and podcasts, probably this time next year moving forward, it will be very, I won't be discussing those things much anymore and be very focused on this new direction.
Well,
Are you doing that decision? Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions about prison?
Sure, please.
So we can get them in before you gravitate towards the other. So, I think a lot of people have misconceptions about prison life and when people come out of prison. I think there's a lot of misconceptions there. So my question is, you said a couple things that stuck with me through this whole podcast was when we first started, you said you found a really good school that you got a liberal arts degree with while you were in prison, right?
GED.
Right. I'm assuming you got your GED while you were in there, and no, you went straight for the big.
I got my GED. I got my GED when I was still in placements. Before I got arrested, the placements I was in required that I get my GED, and so I had my GED before I went to prison. That was a requirement to take these classes. That you either had to be a high school graduate or have your GED. But
so can you shed some light on one? What was the draw towards the classes? Because I feel like your spirit was already starting to lay the stones down on the path of where you were going to go. You just didn't know where you were going to go then. But also, how do you balance that with, like, we all hear stories of what happens in prisons. How do you balance trying to do something to get your life better as you deal with, I'm sure the things we hear about actually do happen. How do you balance that when you're in there?
Well, I didn't balance it very well. I between 17 and 25, I went to prison 5 times. The first 4 times I think mine was a little bit different in that I was a very sweet kid. I had a very big heart and I cared a lot about people. And then over time, like, I just had to get tougher and in order to survive. And I got really lucky because of the severity of my charges. I did end up, I was 17, I turned 18 in jail, and then I went from jail to prison. And in prison, because I had a 15-year sentence, I wound up in a Anamosa, which is Iowa's. It's not super max, but it's still a maximum security prison. I was just a fresh 18-year-old kid going into a place that had hundreds of lifers, and I was lucky. I had a cousin who had paved the path for me. And he was in with a good group of guys, and so his group of friends kind of became my group of friends, and so I was able to avoid, some of the, like, sexual assault stuff and that sort of thing that occurs. So I was lucky / blessed on that, but I still was I was really too soft for prison, and so I had to learn very quickly, and there was a lot of amoral books. I won't say what they are just because I don't want to give them any credit, but there's books that worshiped power, like Laws to Power. And those books became my Bible. And so from 18 to 25, everything I learned about being a man, I learned from books that were about power and control and from people doing life in prison. And so by the time I got out when I was 25, I was an aggressive, alpha, hyper masculine guy who only motive in life was taking and accumulating for myself. And so I had to go through years of deconstruction on that. I had to be really gentle to myself and say, all right, Kyle, being aggressive and being that type of person probably saved you, and it once served you, but it's no longer serving you. We got to figure out how to work through things without punching people.
That's programming. That's programming. When you're in prison, it's programming, and it is manipulation, and that's the rule, right? There's order, and that's part of it. So those are things that you have to learn and then unlearn. So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the system.
Yeah. I think that's a good insight for people to be, hey, this stuff does happen, and sometimes people come out from what they learn there.
You're a miracle.
Yeah.
You really are.
You are a miracle.
The story is so fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
I thought you were a miracle halfway through these pages, and then when I got to, I don't even know what chapter it was, whenever the final, I'm not going to give too much away, but...
you give me a lot of credit, but I wish I could take it, but and this is, I mean, this can be taken as a cliche, but it really was all God. Like all I had to do was say yes and surrender and be willing to die, and God did the rest. And so, I got like, so Killing Kyle Orth on the surface is a book about how God redeemed a hopeless drug addict, and it is. But what it's more about is how people, men and women of God, chose to do the hard and uncomfortable thing and be the hands and feet of Jesus and love me until I could learn myself. Like, the book is this much about me and a lot about the men and women of Christ who chose to love me until I could love myself.
Exactly.
And it's a whole lot about God. You know, like, it's like the Kyle Orth story.
Won't he do
I'm
it?
not the main character. No, like,
but won't he do
God's
it?
the main character. I actually believe that. That's like not just like something I just flippantly throw out there and like some false humility thing. It's true. I wish I could write a book and say, here are the 5 easy ways to get your life together.
Exactly.
And that is not, I can't do that because that's not what happened. I can't take any credit into this.
Sure, we draw.
There are some suggestions, and I do get a little prescriptive towards the final chapters of, you know, if you find yourself in this situation, you know, step 1, you got to surrender your life to Christ. Step 2, you got to find a mentor. You got to find somebody who's willing to go to fight for you and fight with you and for you. and lastly, you need a community, whether it's AA or NA or church. I didn't really do the AA or NA thing.
I didn't either.
I went the church route, you know, but you got to find a community where you can put down some
power of 5. The power of 5.
Yeah,
and the people who you surround yourself with, you know, your mentorship, you know, having good people who have good, solid morals, right? Who are going to tell you you're full of it, knock it off, get your butt out, you know, all of those things.
Sponsors do that,
for sure.
I still have my sponsor. I don't talk to him too much, but I still do have. I went to A for a little bit, but nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with NA. But when did you finally get? When's your sober date? When did you finally quit?
So it would have been October of 2020.
Congratulations, man. That's a long time.
Yeah,
that's awesome. 2020, huh? That's when it all stopped.
Yeah.
So you've never, when we talked, you never heard of Cranum or anything like that?
I had heard of it. It just wasn't anything I really had used. I did use like a K2 and I used K2 a little bit.
K2, I did that, yeah.
But that was more like a drug I did when I couldn't get other drugs.
Yeah, that's when I was trying to pass my mother's drug test in college, which is a long story. I went to K2, so I didn't have to. I got smart about it. Like, I just went to K2 until that stuff like started burning my lungs, and I was like, well, this probably can't be good for my body. But yeah, I went through that whole K2, Cranum, all that stuff, and it's what they're fighting now, Cranum. That's a big thing now. It's legal. You can get it at gas stations. It's everywhere. But I stopped doing that about I think 3 years ago. 3 years ago, maybe. But that's amazing, man. Your story is really something to behold.
So when your movie's complete, when will it hit? And we can't, like we want all the details, the premiere, all the things.
Yeah.
We want the juicy stuff.
Yeah. So we first of all, we invite you to have another conversation. We'd love to talk to you about your book.
Yes.
We would definitely love to have you back for a second podcast with some more information. This has been absolutely amazing story and, really a testament that is, that could have been very destructive, which ends up joyful. And so, amazing is not even the word. I don't even know the right word, but, for me, it is really, I'm trying to find the right word. For me, it is a true testament to survival.
Yeah.
In
That's
life,
how I see it too.
in trauma, in your journey, and all of the things. So, Kyle, it's a pleasure. This has been very informative, and we'd love to support you going forward. We'd love to be a part of it. Whatever we can do to connect and collaborate, we would be interested in doing.
Yeah.
So I have one final question.
Yeah, sure.
Here, rolling my mind around. Drawing from your time, your feral time, and then your time in the placements, and then in prison, if you were just in a room talking to like at-risk people, at-risk youth, people with severe self-destructive behaviors, drawing from all that to where you are today, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So I once again, I would say, once again, like a lot of people ask, what does it take to change your life? Mm-hmm. Again, it takes death to all the things we talked about: ego, pride, victimhood, selfishness, all those sorts of things. Because in order for things to die, in order to be a resurrection, things have to first die. And so I would say that. Also, if you're currently stuck in those situations, like we covered, surrender your life to Christ, get a mentor, get involved into a community is a helpful way. I would say if I was speaking to the loved one of an addict, so I have a whole chapter dedicated to that in the book that a lot of people have found helpful. A few takeaway things is if you have a loved one who's an addict, don't try to be their support, get them to support.
Yes.
So a lot of times people, if it's your spouse or if it's your son or your daughter, they try to be the support person, and it just doesn't work. You're just too close. There's too many hurts. You know too much of the story. You the best thing you can do is not be the support person, get them to support.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's how.
I think that's true with anyone who really struggles and they come to people. I think just the human side of us is like, oh, we want to be the support. We want to be able to help you get through this crisis and turn your life around. But really, like you said, it's find them the support, because a lot of times we're not equipped to handle what they need.
It's equipment, but also like when you're in too close proximity to somebody, like, if it's your mom or it's your, it's like, it's for whatever reason, we have this tendency. I don't know what the psychological principle at work here is, but we are much more prone to listen to, an out-of-state consultant. I have a business, and if somebody comes in here from New York City and like all of a sudden it's like they're experts, but if it's Rick down the street, like I don't, but they can both be equally helpful. We seem to receive things in a more complete way, and we're more willing to lean in when the person seems to be one step removed from us. It's like we all think our moms and dads are idiots. We all think like we just do,
Yeah, we do.
That, like
They're not as smart as us.
There's no profit. What's the verse? There's no profits in their homeland or something like that. Everybody we know is an idiot, but the guy that we met at the conference, gosh, that guy has suppressed revelation. That's the dynamic that's at play. You can't be that. You're just too close to the person. Your job is to love them. And to get them the support. You cannot be their support if it's your son or daughter, or if it's your husband or wife. You gotta create some distance, love them, but get them to somebody else.
Yeah, I think
agree.
Too is people that know you, like have known you through various seasons of your life. That's the version of you they know. They can't necessarily see the you that's heading to the future and like this, and it's just like, wait, stop. And it's like, but no, if I stop, I know I'm gonna backslide that way, kind of thing. So I think what you said is fantastic. Yeah, like sometimes we're just too close to the situation. I love you from afar.
I love that answer.
For you. I'll pick up the phone when you need a shoulder to cry on. But I'm not always the one. Yeah. I think it saves both people, because sometimes when you're too close and you get into it, now you've stepped into the boat and you're both trying to find an oar. And you're just like, it's sinking.
You don't want to be in that place.
So, I think that's great. So, as we wrap up, Kyle, tell people, where can they find you? What's your social media handles? And if you can give any tidbits of like, when can we sort of expect your movie to start coming up? We could go see a premiere. Tell us where we can find all that stuff.
So we're shooting for late summer. That's tentative. If you want to reach out to me, all my handles and my website is all Killing Kyle Orth and killingkyleorth.com.
Keep it all the same.
I love it, man. Keep it easy. Too many people have too many things out there.
Talk about like writing process and how we do that. Like we'd love to just have like book chats with people that have done books. It's just solely about doing books and all that. But it's been fantastic having you on. It's so fascinating. I'm telling you,
it really is, dude.
Going through all this, I'm like, okay, so he needs to be like a feral cat and a pretty buff one, because the guy said he had superhuman strength. And
I can't believe I missed half of it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to It's been a pleasure, Kyle. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, this is Keisha. It's important that you leave your comments because we'd love to know about it. We'd also like for you to subscribe, like, share, and tag. See you next time.